Welcome to the show. This morning I've been to the fish market and I've picked up some prawns, calamari and barramundi because I want to take the fear out of cooking seafood at home. I know heaps of people that love fish but are too afraid to cook it. So today I'm going to give you some tips on how to pick the freshest seafood, secondly, how to prepare it, and finally, how to cook it better than any chef can in a restaurant. Here I have a beautiful fresh baby barramundi. The easiest way to tell how fresh fish is in the eyes. You can see he has beautiful shiny eyes and they're sticking out. If he wasn't as fresh as this, his eyes would be sunken back and they'd be quite cloudy. Another way of telling is in the gills. You can see how red those gills are and nice and shiny. They'd be quite dull if he wasn't this fresh. The other way of telling is by smell. If it smells like the ocean, that's a good thing, if it's a saltwater fish, because hopefully they were there not that long ago. It's always best to buy whole fish because you can look for these signs. Any seafood place that sells whole fish will also fillet it for you if need be, but hopefully after watching today, you'll be able to fillet it yourself. So to fillet this fish, a lot of fish are different, but to fillet this type of fish, you just jump in behind the fins here and just cut straight down into the back. You'll feel the knife stop and then that's where you stop as well. Now holding your hand firmly on top, work the knife back along the spine. You'll feel the ribs and things against your knife and you'll feel a pressure against it, so you can just work your knife backwards like this and along it, and you can hear it as well. This takes practice. I mean, the first time you fillet a fish, it'll look pretty messy, but it doesn't take long to get the hang of. So now we've worked that along the back there. You can see that that's quite open up, and you can see the spine, you can see the backbones that we've just been running against. Now, the other side of the spine. Work it through, cut it through the bones, and then back along the tail again some more. Try not to leave too much flesh on the bones. So once again, just following your tracks from before, but cutting a little bit deeper. Okay, and when you get to this point, you cut through. So you can see your knife on the other side. You can even just put your fillet flat again. Being careful not to cut your hand off. Work it through the end now. Quite flat, keeping pressure on the fish. There you go, fillet's almost off now. Just take these ribs off here. Work your knife through. And there we have a beautiful barramundi fillet. You clean that up a little bit, but that looks pretty good to me. Now for the other side, just flip it over and do the exact same thing. Working your knife through, but this time holding it at the head and your fingers on top. So you need to hold the weight of everything and work it back along the spine just like before. The second side's always a little bit harder than the first side, but same idea, being careful not to cut yourself. So it's important to use a sharp knife to do this. Working your way through. Now I've got the half of the bit done there. I just keep following that back with my knife. You can hear the ribs clicking as you do it. Just working your way through to the middle of the fish, and then once again, once we get to this point, I'll just cut that little bit there. Once we get to this point and we can see the spine again, just work your knife through the bones, just like that, and follow the bones again to cut your fillet off. So nice and loose like that. This fish already came scaled and gutted, so that's a good thing because that really stinks out the rubbish bin. But it's not too hard to fillet it, it's just practice. Working that last bit through, it's just connected by these rib bones here. And we just work those through with the knives, trying to keep as much flesh on the fillet as possible. Final cut now, and that's off. Not quite as neat as the first one, but if you're keen to learn how to fillet them, get some cheaper fish and just practice filleting on those first. Then you can move on to fish like this. But now we've got our fillets, we can just clean those up a little bit, take the fatty bit off. With barramundi, I generally wouldn't take the bones out, but with other fish like trout or salmon, it's quite easy to take the bones out, they come out easily. If you try it with barramundi, it really rips the flesh apart and it won't cook so nicely. So we'll put our fish to the side now because we're going to make the chips for today's dish, which will be fish and chips. So square off your potatoes. Try and get nice rectangle ones so there's not too much wastage. And I wouldn't bother about peeling it because it doesn't really matter if there's a little bit left on it. We'll cut that about 8mm thick. But it's really up to you how big you like them. So once you've cut them that direction, same the other way. Same amount of cuts so you get a nice square chip. So now we have our chips, we need to cook them. To make nice, light, fluffy chips with a crispy outside, there's a little secret. First of all, put them in some water, cold water that is, and bring it up to the boil. Let them cook for around 4 or 5 minutes after it's boiled, and then take them out, dry them off, and put them in the fridge to cool. So then when it comes to frying them, they're already cooked. So all we're doing is frying the outside, getting it nice and crispy, and they'll be nice and soft in the middle. So our chips have been cooling now for half an hour, and they're nice and cold. But the first thing we need to do to fry them is get some oil on, get it nice and hot. If you have a deep fryer, it's even better, but otherwise a shallow pot like this is fine. So, just put our chips to the side for a minute and let that oil heat up, and we'll look at our barramundi. So we have our 2 fillets here. Give them a nice season up with some salt on both sides. That just draws out the flavour, and put some pepper on there too, either side. And then we're just going to give them a light coating in some flour. This will give it a nice crispy outside. We don't want too much flour on or sort of overtakes the fish a little bit. So you can see that they're nice and coated now in the flour. We've got our pan here on medium heat to cook it in. If it's too hot, it'll burn, but we also want it to be hot enough to make the skin nice and crispy. So we'll add a nice good quality olive oil to our pan. We just want it to be enough oil to stop it sticking and enough oil to make it crispy. So we can add that to our pan now and get that started, but it should just be sizzling around the outside. We don't want it too hot. While that's ticking away, we can get our chips in as well. Just dropping them in away from yourself like that. Cooked. So keep moving them around as well, making sure they're getting nicely cooked evenly on each side. Our barramundi's just ticking away now nicely. Keeping the barramundi on the skin side is the best way to go because you'll get a really nice crisp skin. Let it cook through about 3/4 of the way on the skin side, and then just finish it off on the flesh side. If you look at the fish here, you can see it's white, as we said. So there's a little bit of raw left on top. It's time to turn it. So just get your spatula underneath and just quickly flip it over, just like that. Same with the other one, quickly flip it over. And we'll just leave this to finish off on the underside. What you want to look for is white sort of foam in the pan. This is the protein from the fish that shows you that the fish is cooked. Our chips are done, so we'll pull those out. Just onto a paper towel again, give them a nice draining. So we'll just pop our chips onto our plate while our fish is still ticking away. To tell if your fish is cooked, you can flip it back over and it should just flake away. I mean, you can just have a look inside there like that. You can see it's cooked, but it should be quite nice and flaky. Take your fish out of the pan, onto your plate. So there we have it. It's that easy. Baby barramundi with beautiful homemade crispy chips. After the break, we're going to make salt and pepper calamari with a rocket and balsamic salad. So I'll see you then.